Welcome to the Hawley Baptist Church podcast, connecting you to a community in which everyone is welcome, lives are changing, and Jesus is King. Thanks for joining us today. You can subscribe to keep up to date with us. Did you know you can also join our service each Sunday via a live online meeting? Please get in touch to find out more about that. But for now, we pray you enjoy what God has in store for you in this episode and that it helps change your life for the better. In Jesus' name, welcome.
Well, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Robin.
And I'm Neil.
And we are here today we're going to carry on, aren't we, with our second in the series of our series called An Open Invitation. So last week, Helen spoke, and this week we have Martin speaking on it. So this week it's called A Good Invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So Helen last week, I can only remember 3 words. It was one of those sermons. And if you haven't seen it on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, go back and listen to it. It'd be one of those talks, I suppose Helen spoke for, 15, 20 minutes, and everybody will remember just 3 words.
Words.
And the words were come and see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the invitation that, as a church, we're putting out to everybody. If you've never been to church before, well, come and see.
Mm-hmm.
And you're online, so you're already answering that call. So it's great to have you with us. So, today, what's it called again?
So the series is called An Open Invitation. This is the second of that series today. And today's title is called A Good Invitation.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll see what that's all about. In fact, shall we go to the sermon intro?
Yeah.
God, can't give me words out. So many ers. Yes, the pre-sermon video, whatever it's called. Let's listen to that now.
Some of the biggest moments in life start with something small, an invitation, a coffee, a conversation, a simple come and see. For many of us, our faith began because someone reached out, someone invited us. So what if your invitation could change someone's life? Because a simple invite can change everything.
Stop quickly. Good morning and welcome. Something I forgot to say earlier is that next Sunday we've got some baptisms. So if you are interested in baptism, do chat to me, but you're going to see a baptism, what that all is, next week. Hopefully it'll be both services, but we haven't quite worked out all the details yet. But that's baptisms next week. But I'm going to carry on our sermon series that Helen started last week, Open Invitation. And on your seats, you should have found one of these. If you're here last week, you would have got one of these. Hopefully, you won't have one of these anymore because you gave it away. Because the point of these cards is that you give this to someone as an invitation to church. But more on that in a moment. Because the reality is some of us find it very easy to invite someone to church. Some of us find it very, very hard. I'm not going to ask for a show of hand of which category you fall into. But I know for me, I find it quite difficult to invite someone to church. I remember as a teenager, my church I was part of was doing some sort of outreach service. I can't remember exactly what it was now. It was a long time ago as a teenager. And they encouraged us to go and invite someone. And they gave us a leaflet to hand out. And I remember I was in sixth form at the time, and all I managed to do was get the leaflet, put it by my friend's side and went, you might be interested in this, and quickly ran off. That was as much as I could do, and I was really scared about that. See, maybe that's you, or maybe you're the sort of person that actually finds invitation really, really easy. I have a friend called Dan. In fact, he goes to this church. I can talk about him because he's currently in creche at the moment, but occasionally I see him at the gym. And I admire Dan because when we're at the gym, he's talking to everyone. It seems that at some point or another, he's introduced himself to someone and found out who they are. In fact, Chris, you're like this as well, and I admire this. Chris is also at the gym. There's a whole group of us at the gym, you can tell. Chatty, friendly, getting to know people. And there's one occasion, the one thing that frustrates me a little bit about Dan is that we're working out, he's chatting to someone, and then he introduces me. I don't want to be introduced. I want to be anonymous. And he introduced me. This is my friend Martin. Do you know he's the pastor of Hawley Baptist Church? I'm like, oh no, what do you have to say? But the other day he did that. And what I just really thought was amazing was he went, this is Martin, he's the pastor of Hawley Baptist Church. And if you're interested in church, you should come along one Sunday. He extended an invite. And it was natural, it wasn't forced or cringy. He'd already gained a rapport with these people, and for him it was just natural to invite someone along to a Sunday service. So regardless of which camp we fall in, whether we're petrified of inviting someone or it just falls easily off the tongue, we as followers of Jesus, if you are a follower of Jesus here this morning, we're called to invite people along to church. We might not be an evangelist. We may not be able to answer all the deep questions about life and theology. But all of us here have the ability and hopefully the contacts to say, come and see. Come and see. These are the words that Helen picked up last week in the opening part of this sermon series. And it's from John's Gospel, John's account of Jesus' ministry. And as Jesus gathering, towards the beginning of his ministry, he's gathering disciples, gathering people who are going to be his core group of 12 followers. And one of them is called Philip. Philip meets Jesus and decides to follow him. And he excitedly tells his friend Nathanael, who seems somewhat incredulous at the claims that was being made. But Philip just says, rather than entering into some sort of argument with him, he just says, come and see. Look, come and see for yourself. Come and experience it for yourself. Similarly, in John's Gospel, just 4 chapters later, we find a woman that meets Jesus at the well, an outcast from her society, and yet she meets Jesus. Her life is transformed. And she goes back to her village and she says, come and see a man who told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah? See, you aren't responsible for whether or not someone comes to church. But you are expected to invite. You are expected to come and see. Now, those words I said last week, and we did a little short video to explain what the cards were. But I'm left with that question. I want to explore it this morning. Is that actually true? Is that actually true that we are not responsible for whether or not someone comes to church? Is it purely just an invite? It's not down to us at all? Or do we have some responsibility, some way of encouraging someone in a positive way to come and accept the invitation? That's what I want us to unpack this morning. We're going to be looking at a passage from Matthew chapter 5. If you've got a Bible, you might want to open it. If not, it will appear on the screen here. We're just going to look at just a couple of verses. And I want you to imagine the setting of these verses. These are a couple of chapters we call the Sermon on the Mount. But imagine less a mountain and more a hillside. We've got the Sea of Galilee in Israel, where a lot of Jesus' ministry happens around the Sea of Galilee. And we're just going up the hillside just slightly, maybe into a natural sort of auditorium where Jesus was able to sit and still be heard, because the natural position for a rabbi, that's a teacher, was not standing like I am. You're sitting, I'm standing. In those days, it was the other way around. The teacher sat and people gathered around him. An expectant crowd made up of farmers and fishermen, mothers and children, religious types, eager to hear this new rabbi, this new teacher, who seemed to be so different to all the other teachers, who spoke with and acted with real authority. And if you read through the next couple of chapters on the Sermon on the Mount, what you see is Jesus delivering the countercultural reality of following Jesus, of being a citizen of heaven. That actually, Jesus is saying, if you're going to follow me, then your life needs to be different. It needs to be distinctive. You need to stand out in the crowd. You need to swim against the flow. You shouldn't be following all. Once it was said this, Jesus says, but now I say this. And this is what he says to kind of give us an illustration of that. It says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. I think you can kind of get the metaphor, the simile here. In those days, less so in this country, but certainly in those places, it was a hilly place, and towns were put on the top of the hill. Why were towns put on the top of a hill? Because they were easily defended. And you can imagine a town, whitewashed walls, up high. You can't hide it, easily to spot, the sun reflecting off those whitewashed walls, visible to miles around. And also a lamp. What's the point of a lamp if you hide it, if you cover it up? A lamp has a job to do, and that's to give light. That's its purpose. And Jesus is saying that if you're my follower, that's your purpose as well, to give light. In a dark world, we should be a shining light. We should be a stark contrast. We should be guiding. We should be helping. We should be drawing people to us. We should be attractive carriers of the good news of Jesus. Unfortunately for the church, certainly in the West, the reality is somewhat different to maybe what Jesus was encouraging. That the church has really a bit of a bad reputation, and has had for a long time, and could possibly be seen as getting worse. Hypocrisy and moral failure, closed mindsets and judgmentalism, intolerance and outdated views, institutional failure and scandal, stories of bullying and coercion. Now, some of those claims are unfounded or built on misunderstandings, but unfortunately, a lot of it is true and hugely damaging. I remember in my 20s, I greatly admired one particular church leader called Mike Pilavachi. I used to go to Soul Survivor, I used to watch him preach. I just thought, if I could just be like him, then wouldn't I be able to do amazing things for God? In fact, he did do amazing things for God. In a couple of years, it came out that he was sacked for inappropriate relationships and bullying behavior, and little did we know what was going on behind the scenes. And then there's a friend of mine called Dom who grew up attending a church school. And the experiences of attending a very religious school and the teachers there has meant that he's in his 50s now, he will not even enter a church premises because of the damage done to him. And unfortunately, in that setting, with that view of the church, the only light that the church is producing is as a lighthouse shouting, "Stay away, danger." Well, I want to say two things today. Two things. First thing is, I've missed it out. Two things is there is hope. Actually, if I skip, I'll go back. There we go. There is hope. That's the first one. And the second one is your part is vital. You have a part to play in turning this reputation around. So first thing, there is hope. A report came out last year, conducted by the Bible Society in YouGov, and they published it under the name, you may have heard of it, The Quiet Revival. And really what it pointed to, that church attendance in the UK, which has been going like that for a long time, after decades of decline, may be showing early signs of renewed interest and growth, especially among younger generation. Monthly attendance is rising. Young adults are exploring faith. There's hopeful signs of renewed interest in spirituality, including Christianity. In fact, some of the statistics, and I'm going to jump back to where I was before. There we go. 31% of non-churchgoers would attend church if invited by friends or family. 31%, that's almost a third of non-people who you know who don't go to church would attend church if invited by friends or family. That goes up to 34% of 18 to 34-year-olds. Non-churchgoers would attend church if invited by friends or family. If you look at research done by Fusion, who work with students and universities in the UK, they discovered that amongst students, 74% of students who currently do not attend church regularly would go if a friend invited them. Even I experienced this back in the 90s at university, where I invited my friends along to church, and over 10 of them turned up for a service. That's kind of a point of life when they're really open to trying new things, I guess. But note there are two key things in these statistics. One of them is they were invited, and two, they were invited by a friend or family member. Advertising's great. It raises the profile. It lets people know that we're here, but advertising doesn't bring people to church. Alpha UK, we run Alpha courses here, which is a way of exploring the Christian faith. Alpha, in its training, says it is not enough to advertise. People will not come to an Alpha course if you stick posters up around the town. They will only come, or more likely to come, if a friend invites them. Even more so if the friend says, come along and sit with me. This is why in the cards it says, it doesn't say come and try church. What does it say on there? Come and try church with me. Come and do it with me. I'll come and sit with you. I'll meet you down on the road, because it's scary. Come to church. I mean, church, it's a weird place. Church is a scary place. Johnny's nodding his head. Church is an unknown place. If you're a non-church goer, then you do not know what is going on in here, and probably your opinion of what is going on in here is pretty low compared to what you see on TV. Expectations are low. So we need to make an invitation more likely to work by making it personal. And that's where you come in. So the second thing is your part is vital. Your part is invited in taking the invitation and making a good invitation. Because for many people in our society, an invitation to church is a bad invitation. And they're very, very unlikely to say yes. But you can make the difference. This is what it says in verse 16 of that passage. We've already read verse 14 and 15. This is Jesus. These are the words of Jesus. He's carrying on saying, in the same way. So he said, you're the light of the world. You know, you're a city on a hill. You're a light that shouldn't be hidden. He says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. See, Jesus in this verse before, well, verse 14 says, you are the light of the world. In fact, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. We too are the lights of the world. Not that we're shining our own light, but we're reflecting Jesus' light, God's glory into the world. Like the moon reflects the light of the sun, we reflect the light of our Heavenly Father. We are called to shine before others. And Jesus is very, very clear in this verse of how we do that. We look at those words together. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds. What we do, what we say, how we act, how we treat others. In other words, our reputation is the light that we are shining. That is how we reflect Jesus into the world. And that is hugely important to people when deciding whether or not to whether or not to accept your invitation, whether it's a bad invitation or a good invitation. Let your light shine. But I want us to take just a moment to reflect and be honest with ourselves. Because I've got this line here. In the middle it says, let your light shine. But on one side it says, let your light shrink, where your faith and your light is hidden, it's fearful, and it's silent. No one knows you're a Christian, and you don't really show it either, so no one would even imagine that you are. On the other end, you've got let your light scorch, where actually your faith, you're harsh, you're proud, you're off-putting. Maybe you're telling people off. Maybe you're preaching at them rather than having a conversation with them. Where do you fit on that spectrum? Are you bang in the middle going, yes, I am visible, I am warm, I am attractive. Everyone I invite to church says yes because they've met me. Or is life experiences a little bit different? Take a look and just think, where am I on that spectrum? We know where we should be because Jesus tells us we should be bang in the middle. But be honest with yourself. Where are you on this line? Because the reality is, your life is the strongest sermon. Your life, your good deeds, the words you say, the way you treat people, the way you let your light shine is the strongest sermon. Despite the failings of the church, despite how Christians are portrayed in the media, if you are kind and you are loving and you are generous and you are patient and supportive and accepting, then you have the potential to overturn any of those misconceptions or bad views of the church. To the point where when you ask someone to come to a church or come to a church event, we've got men's curry and women's craft coming up, they might actually say yes. So, yeah, you can't make someone come to church. I wouldn't recommend it. Don't drag them in through the door. And sometimes their attendance is beyond your control. Now, there's some hurts that only God can heal. But you can put the odds in your favor by your good deeds. Let's reflect on just 3 questions together. What puts you off inviting someone to church? Is it them, the church, or you that's holding you back? Be honest. Does your light shrink, scorch, or shine? Do you have someone in mind that you want to invite to church? Pray about it.
Oh, that was fairly straightforward and
Yes.
And understandable, and the rest of it.
Yeah, practical.
And practical. I found some of the statistics quite interesting. Was it 1 in 3 people, if invited by a friend, will go and try church? Which I think all the people I know think, well, they wouldn't come. But statistics tell me, well, those statistics it was just that 1 in 3.
No.
1 in 3 might. They might not stay,
No,
but
indeed.
they would come.
I think there's more of an openness there with people than we might expect. I sometimes feel, people aren't going to want to be open to any of this at all. But those statistics show different things, don't they? People are up for giving it a go. Sometimes, not all the time. But,
The first question was, what puts you off inviting somebody? I was thinking about that, and I think there's 2 reasons that come to my mind. First one is they might say no, and you get that slight awkwardness that they don't come. But if I'm being totally honest, sometimes I think the bigger fear is they might say yes.
Yeah,
because then they've got to come, and then you worry about what they're.
You've got to be there.
You've got to be there, and this is like my space, and I do my thing here.
Yeah.
And if I got my friend with me, then I'd have to think about them and show them in, and they once they come, they might not like it.
No,
So
indeed.
if I'm being totally honest, I sometimes think I'm more worried about them saying yes than I am worried about saying no.
That's really interesting.
Well,
I totally get that.
It's probably been a bit over honest, really.
That. No, absolutely. I don't think it's been over honest at all. And Helen was saying last week in her talk that church can be unpredictable at times. That you don't, particularly if it's a Sunday morning. Most of the time it's not, but sometimes somebody might do something a bit kind of wacky, or it might be a slightly odd sermon, and you kind of worry about all those things, don't
Yeah,
you? That is it. What's that? If it is the Sunday morning, what is that going to look like? So I guess that is where it's a bit easier to invite people into an event, perhaps. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
As a first step. But is that church?
I think we worry too much because I don't know what else do I do. That's I play golf. People probably know I play golf, and golf is not for everybody. And some people really enjoy it, and some people think it's the worst sport in the.
Yes,
but I wouldn't hesitate to invite someone to come and play golf.
Yeah.
If they hated it, that's fine. They wouldn't come again, and my friendship wouldn't be different because they didn't like golf. Yeah. And I think, you don't tend to. You invite a friend to church, and you think if they don't like it, well, they're not going to
come again.
They won't come again, perhaps. But you're not going to lose your friendship over it, perhaps. And maybe I worry too much about. I do worry about what people think. Yeah, and I ought to not worry what people think and just
absolutely.
Because if you're a friend with someone before, you're not going to. Your friendship's not going to.
No, I get that.
It's not going to change. So,
no. I find it hard to tell people I'm a Christian, let alone invite people to church sometimes. I do. There's conversations come out very organically with me when I'm like talking to somebody. People might be like, so what did you do at the weekend? And I'd be like, say, I went to a child's birthday party and they were, I went out for a meal. I went for a walk, did some reading. I went to church on Sunday morning and I quickly move on. And I feel that's kind of me sort of trying to, and then people stop and they go, oh, that's interesting. Well, you play guitar then, do you? And then, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, I just find that difficult, let alone inviting people. I have done it in the past, and people have not come, but it's always been, I'm busy that morning, etc. But it's always, I'm okay with the rejection side of it.
I think people are interested.
They are.
And the statistics show that people are far more open to faith things. I think if you do say you go to church, people are very often interested about what church and what church is like, particularly if they haven't got any experience of it.
I worry about the stereotypes involved with it sometimes, which I really shouldn't. And that would be, and I'm not saying that this is a problem at all, but I think the minute I tell people I'm a Christian, I go to church, I think they think, I wear sort of like sandals and white socks and always got copies of the Gideon Bible under my arms at the weekends. Do you know what I mean? And I'm always trying, do you know what I mean? And I'm not. Yeah, and that's fine if you are that, but for me, it's not. That's not me.
The best way to get over that stereotype is to actually invite them.
To do it,
and you see that,
it's not like that.
We've got jeans and t-shirts. So on this spectrum then of sort of hidden, shining, scorching, or whatever the shrinking. I think you and me are probably nearer the shrinking. Hesitant to tell people rather than the. I don't think either of us be on the street corner too quickly. Just shouting at people, telling them they have to be in church.
Some people are gifted in that way, aren't they? In terms of that thing, but it's not. That's not me. I'm not truly awful, but I'm not. I can't say that I can't say that I shine. I definitely don't scorch, do I? I'm kind of somewhere between shrinking and sort of, And
I guess the challenge then is if we know where we are on that spectrum is what should we do to get slightly close to the middle where we do feel comfortable to invite somebody and ask them if they want to come to church, and stats say 1 in 3 will say so. 2 out of 3 are going to say no. And that's
one person might say yes.
I do remember I went to dinners years ago, and don't think the person will be listening to this, but and he invited. So we went to dinner with a couple, and he said, "Would you like to see my collection of fossils or archaeological rocks?" And I was at his house and had dinner with him. And the polite thing to do was to say, I'd love to come and see. And we spent hours. Well, not hours, but it probably seemed like hours looking at these rocks. Which I didn't excite me, let's put it that way. But because I was his friend, I went and I looked and I showed interest and if we have that friendship, perhaps people will. Similar ways that if we invite them to church, they'll come and maybe they'll like it and maybe they won't. That's not our problem.
100%.
Really. Yeah. So the third question is, who do you invite and and pray. And maybe we just need to pray that you and I, perhaps we just need to pray we'll be a little bit bolder.
Yeah.
And that probably goes for quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's just and that opportunity, that natural conversation.
Yeah,
What
definitely.
do you do at the weekend? You do throw in, I went to church, and you wait for the reaction. And if they're interested, you say, well, come along. And
I think that's a good. I think that's a good step in itself to do that. I found that hard. I find it hard.
Yeah. Well,
but I've been doing it more. I've been doing that more, and also that's also led to some like other conversations around kind of like, you know, so what's church like? What you do? Like, are you there all day? Well, sometimes are you there? You won't be there all day if I'm you. Don't worry. You don't have to get involved in all this stuff. You don't have to become you. But
so there's a challenge for us.
Yes.
If you haven't watched last week's sermon, do that. Catch up on YouTube to come and see. And then this week, takeaway. What's a good invitation look like? And I guess the question is, what is stopping you? Be brave this week, and maybe in that natural conversation, that'll be the opportunity to say, well, why don't you come along and find out? So we'll leave you with that this week. We're going to say goodbye and have a great week, and we'll either see you online next week. Yeah. Or maybe we'll see, and you can invite somebody online, of course.
Someone else.
One way of getting somebody to come and see is just share this video. Yeah. Just share this podcast with somebody else. That might be the easiest way possible.
Indeed.
As I thought. Right. We're going to say goodbye and finish it there. Okay. Take care.
Bye.
That is it for today's episode. Well done for joining us and making it here to the end. Hopefully you feel slightly encouraged at least, or that you want to follow Jesus just that little bit more closely. You can join us in the room on a Sunday, but if that's too big of a next step for you, did you know you can also join us online for a video feed to one of our morning services? Do get in contact with us if you'd like to find out how you can do that. If you've got any questions about what you've heard today, or about anything that's to do with following Jesus and just church lives, things that we might be able to help you with, we've got an email address just for you. It's gotquestions@hawleybaptist.org.uk. We'd love to hear from you there. Don't forget to share this. If you've enjoyed it, somebody else might do too. Share it with your friends. If you want to keep up to date with all that we do, hit that subscribe button to maintain that link with us and all that we produce. You can find it as well, links to these different things on hawleybaptist.org.uk/media as well. Thank you for joining us again. We pray God blesses you, and we will look forward to you joining us next time.